Okay, hello everybody. It's so nice to have you here today. My name is Courtney Jacobson and I'm with Homebase. I've worked with international students, scholars, and employees for over 18 years in international offices. And at Homebase, we have a platform where we work with universities to help get international students and scholars the information that they need when they need it. So if you're not in the US yet and you are getting ready to come to university, we help your university get that information to you. And if you're trying to apply for OPT, we help them get that to you as well. Today, I'm joined by two of our founders from CASA, and they have a sort of special organization that helps students and scholars get set up when they come to the US. And so they're really experts on onboarding new international students and scholars in the US. So everything from finding the right phone that you need to finding a place to live. And so we have resources here as well that I'll share with you. But I want to turn it over to them so they can introduce themselves, talk a little bit about what you need to get settled here in the US. And I also want to say a big welcome to everybody on your journey here to the US.
Thank you so much, Courtney. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the entire Homebase team for setting this up. We're very excited. I am Addy, one of the founders of CASA. I'm joined by my co-founder, Gillian Dunn. CASA was built from a very simple observation. I was an international student myself. I had the pleasure of being a director for incoming international students at Babson College, and I had the pleasure to start CASA post that. So really looking into this full experience that have we've personally been through. And universities do an incredible job preparing students for academic life, but much of the actual transition happens outside of campus. So we help today higher institutions with the comprehensive off-campus support from concierge to housing, from community to neighborhood perks. Our goal had been to ensure that, the student success piece of it doesn't end, just at acceptance letter. We really start students super early on pre-arrival and ensuring that in acceptance letters, as it tells you where to study, we really focus on ensuring that you are successful outside of those bounds of academics. So the way we look at it is, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., you have everything aligned and figured out. We are your 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. partners. That includes some of our late night events for fun as well. So today we are not going to give you every answer for every American city, but our goal would be to ensure that at least we share some of the joint learnings as international students, as institutions helping international students to ensure that you have everything figured out from housing arrival and ensuring you feel settled in. So I do want to understand who we all are speaking to. So I want to ensure if you could tell us where are you in the journey from I've been accepted to all the way down to already in US and looking to get settled. That is fantastic. We always have students from all walks of these steps. We usually don't include the number four, which is everything has gone perfectly. I have no question, because those things rarely exist in higher education as a process. So, looking into your life off campus, can I please get to the next slide? Yes. When students imagine graduate school, they naturally think about classes, professors, projects, internships, and the degree they are working towards. But your academic experience is in the middle of several other ecosystems. Where you live affects how much time and energy you'll have each day. Your commute determines whether attending an evening event feels easy or impossible. Your everyday systems determine whether a basic task would take 10 minutes or half the afternoon. So we are here to ensure that most of that upfront planning is done really well. These are not separate from academic success. All of these are very interdependent. It is difficult to focus on a finance lecture when your landlords have not answered you. So, the goal here is to really ensure that your community of campus matches with what you really want to do off campus and career wise, while also ensuring that you have a really well settled plan for everyday commute. Uh, this is why stability and ensuring you have a healthy routine off campus matters a lot. It gives you the energy to participate, build relationship, pursue opportunities, and actually enjoy the experience you work so hard to reach. When life outside the classrooms become manageable, students can finally bring their full intelligence inside the classroom. Can I get to the next slide, please? When you look at trade-offs around housing, and I'll touch on this a little bit heavier because this is always a question we get asked. Should I stay close to campus? Should I stay close to downtown? We have different cities and institutions that are a little bit further out from downtown campuses. So for them, there's a massive trade-off when looking into smaller suburban colleges. When we look into your employment opportunities and where you will intern, at times it does make sense to explore the commute a couple of days advance before your classroom starts to really see what kind of optimization you would need to do on a daily basis. Uh, all three are well defined but good options for students, dependent on where they stand in their life. If you are moving with your friends and family, it does help to have a more balanced option where you have access to local grocery stores and also your part-time or off-campus opportunities for internships and jobs. While closer to campus options at times may offer you more flexibility with an easier commute, at times those are higher rent opportunities since a lot of students are applying to that. So, slight trade-offs on ensuring if you would like a completely city experience versus an east to commute, as well as your internship and job opportunities.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Addie. So, as Addie had mentioned in the beginning, I'm Gillian Dunn on the other side of CASA as the co-founder, and I'm very much focused on what your off-campus experience is, how your day-to-day life is planned out, but most importantly, as a not only a renter across many markets in America and most recently in the Boston area, it's very tough. And so I was very motivated to become a licensed real estate agent to ensure that questions get answered, clarification happens when it comes to payment processes, understanding neighborhoods, and having lived this through ourselves, adding in that lived experience to make sure that the same mistakes aren't being made. You now have a guide to work through all of this together with. So, as Addie had mentioned, there's a lot to consider in terms of your trade offs. But once you have a sense of where you want to live, we're primarily based right now in the New England area, and we focus on understanding, okay, what does a realistic commute actually mean? What does public transportation have to do with this? Do you want a car? We'll get into that a little bit more later. But all of that adds up. It's not just finding the perfect home, it's finding the perfect lifestyle balance. So, with that, when you're planning, figuring out all of those elements also comes with finding if you need a roommate or you want a roommate for that social interaction. That really helps set the stage to understand, am I looking for a match and then moving forward together, or am I ready to look? Once you assess those, which of course play into budget and lifestyle preferences, that's really where your search begins. And unfortunately, in today's day and age with AI, listings are becoming harder and harder to verify. And I really encourage you, whether you are in the New England area, to reach out to CASA. We're here to help work and represent on your behalf to provide vetted listings and options. But of course, there's a lot of different markets in the United States. So I highly recommend, figuring out from your school, from past classmates, from local trusted sources, who is in that market, who has that knowledge, and who's ready to provide you with vetted options to move forward with. So listings can look perfect online. Real estate has a very nice magical wand to make listings seem larger, brighter, lighter than they are. And so we really do that work to make sure that, is this really what you're about to move into? So building off of that realistic plan, adding in that search to make sure that not only what you're looking for is legitimate, of course, but it fits what you want. And a lot of that also has to do with the preparation, your documentation, making sure your funding is in place, and understanding what costs might come up when you are ready to sign a lease, or what are utilities. So there's a lot of different line items to make sure that you're budgeting for. And especially if you're moving into the New England area, CASA is here to help make sure that that is guided properly. But we do highly recommend, there are many marketplace listing sites, search listing sites. Please be very careful when you're looking through those things. Biggest tips is please never send money or personal information when you're trying to get more information out of a landlord or a management team. That information is free for you and should be verified. So again, working with a licensed local professional is the best way to ensure that what you're looking at is real, but also the process you're going through is legitimate. And that's really important because as timelines become more tight, as you start to understand, what options might actually be available, we want to make sure that you're acting from a place of, I feel confident about this, and you're ready to move forward. So especially when you're getting ready to apply as an international student, fortunately or unfortunately, you're typically very prepared with your paperwork. There's a lot of steps involved already that has gotten you to the place to look for a home. And so making sure your documentation, your proof of funds, and again, working with a licensed local professional helps make sure that any international nuances are properly explained so you don't miss out on a chance to apply for a really great place. And then again, once you have your home secured and your lease is signed, it's really important to know there's a lot of other things around that, whether it's moving in and buying things to make your home really feel like a home, or is it, do I need renter's insurance, or does my landlord require it? And what even is renter's insurance? But really thinking through, what you think you might know and what we're here to help guide you with is important, because once you get settled, your home throughout the year is just as important as your academic experience.
When we look at your first 48 hours in US, they don't need to be perfect, but they definitely need to be planned a little bit ahead, especially looking into arriving in a country, ensuring you have a working cellular phone, or at least connected to the Wi-Fi before you exit the airport for your cab. Really understanding how will you get your apartment keys, ensuring that you have at least research how does the utilities work in that domain and the region, and where will you get your first few meals, and if needed, emergency medication. These things would really help you when your brain's jet lagged and you're trying to go through those checklists. These sound like small questions until you are standing outside in an unfamiliar building with three suitcases. So we want to ensure that that is number one thing. You are uh, almost ensuring that you see hour by hour what does that look like for you, and have your carry-on and check-in bags at least replicate some of the items. We've had students who've lost their check-in and had to survive off of their carry-on for a bit. So ensure that at least you are planning for a little bit all possible scenario, especially when you're landing in a new city. When looking into your day one support, it's very, very also important to understand that you don't need to buy all the furniture until you've actually seen how your housing looks like. As international students, we've all had that experience where we swear that this was a very integral, important piece of furniture, and we spend the next year trying to get rid of it. So, ensuring that as an international student, one of my favorite thing to do now is to look at the weather app when I wake up, because In my home country, there's months where the seasons don't change. So I never had to look at that. Now, usually my outfit also depends on the weather, not just my entire commute. So in US, when most of the cities dealing with um, either a snow or a heat, please ensure that you know in advance the kind of weather you might be expecting when you land in US. Have transportation figured out early on, and at least ensure wherever you are staying, you have some understanding of the emergency care, local pharmacies, and ensuring you have the first 48 hours of checklist a little bit fine-tuned. The goal is not to predict every possible problem, but the goal is to really just prevent small problem that could become an emergency if we don't fix it. Um, Next slide, please. This is my favorite slide because when you are looking into belonging, ensure that the first step, your home for the next couple of years, is your campus. You should take a walk, if possible, before your classes begin and really understand the lay of the land, understanding different clubs. Please research. What do you want to join in? And please be intentional with that when looking into your student government positions, your clubs. If you do play a sport, I highly recommend joining those. It really helps you to know your classmates, but really get connected to an overall community based on your affinity. And this will really help you feel at home in the early stages when it's the toughest thing to do as you are figuring out team deadlines, assignments, midterm stress, as well as those IKEA trips. Making your city feel familiar. So I think a lot of students do tend to put a lot of pressure on them in the first month getting here because some of them have taken a career break to do so, and academics is new for them. Uh, Please ensure that you are preparing for your social and cultural success as much as you are for your professional success. A new city does feel unmanageable when you are only looking at it from the academic commute lens. Please ensure that you have some city visits planned so that you start to feel at home in this new city. And that could mean as small as understanding if there's an event happening in the same week and you're arriving so that you feel a little bit connected to the local ecosystem. But more importantly, I understand that you'd be representing a lot of different cultures and cuisines. So try to find that one library spot you would like to work from. Try to find out your next favorite cafe, restaurant. This, in the overall schemes, when things get stressful, would really make you feel at home. Um, at CASA, we give a lot of neighborhood discounts and do events to really promote that well-being support. I highly recommend you intentionally venture out of the campus. Uh, Start your career early. When we look at your internships and jobs offers in US, especially in higher education, you'll often find that a lot of your opportunities depend on your external network. That at times mean visiting your career services department that is super well equipped, but more importantly, scrubbing your LinkedIn skills now to look at your school alumni, reaching out to them early on. Most of them have been in your shoes. They are the most, uh, these audience understand you much better than anyone else. So don't hesitate to reach out early. Set up those coffee meetings before they become an internship referral ask, and then get into a habit of having this as a routine. What I mean by that is if Fridays are your I'm gonna fix your resume days, and Sundays are your I'm gonna go to the park and apply to 12 internships, do that. Please figure out your consistent schedule so that you are expanding on the possibilities that would ultimately lead to your career growth. Um, and then your support map from housing to ensuring how to speak to your employer on your visa work, your immigration, ensuring you have a good academic plan, but more importantly, that you are healthy and fit throughout the entire journey is very, very important. So that's something our team does on ground in New England. And as we expand nationally, we are very, very excited to at least help you with the pre-arrival. So if you would love to have a conversation with our team on just speaking out your stress and anxiety, we really would like to be your best friend in residence and answer some questions from context, some questions from content, but more importantly, always listening and giving you a guided, trusted local advice. Thank you so much, Homebase team, again. I would love to learn if I can answer some questions from you directly.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also, before we move into some questions, I wanted to also say we at Homebase also have a marketplace. So the QR code that you see on there will take you to our marketplace if you want to sort of individually explore some services that are more international friendly. An example would be when you get a cell phone. There's a couple of options when you get a cell phone. So one of them is to sign a contract that will last for 12 months to 36 months. And often for international students, that's not a great option because you have to do a big down payment and you have to have a social security number. And so some of the things we try to do in our marketplace is provide options for you that are a good fit so that you don't have to work your way through all those things that are not a good fit. And then we also have a blog that I linked in our chat as well. We also have from Adi and Jillian some tips in there as well. So you'll find a link to them and their services in there, a little bit more information about what they do. So if you're in the Boston area, that's a great thing to explore. But we also have lists and tips. So if you're interested in getting set up, we have a list of some suggested items when you're getting into your dorm that will help make it more comfortable. So what kind of bedding do you need? And yes, it's a special size if you're living in dorms in an undergrad. So all the different tips and tricks that you might want. So feel free to reach out to us anytime or explore our blogs, explore our marketplace. Also reach out to your schools. So I also put something in the chat there about find a room or roommate. So within Homebase, there's a space where you can often chat with other international students. So if your university has set that function up, a very common thing to do in there is to find a room or roommate that's another international student. And it's great because it helps keep you away from a lot of those scams that you can see out on Facebook or other places. So the first question for you guys is, what are some of the most common scams that you see international students fall into when you're helping them?
Julian, why don't you start with real estate because then I'll begin on the other side. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yes, so working with a lot of students, especially as we get closer to semester starting, of course, there's very real anxiety around that, making sure you have a place that's secure. But we have been noticing that especially local markets that we deal with, a lot of not ethical practices have been being made where charges for viewing fees, for really a lot of upfront deposits have been requested through payment methods that aren't reversible. So I highly recommend wherever your local rental market happens to be to check what your local rental laws are. That's something that can be a quick little bullet list from an internet search, but I do strongly recommend making sure that you're not being asked for money or for personal information. That's a huge piece of it. But more importantly, really trying to find different ways, whether it's somebody local in the area or again, finding a relationship through a trusted classmate or school relationship where they can go actually see the unit to make sure that whatever you're renting exists. First off, it actually has a real address, but more importantly, what's inside of it is, really good condition and as advertised.
For your off-campus usual things we see a lot nowadays is AI scams have gotten very sophisticated. So if that car you are seeing online that is for $500 and it has all the amazing amenities and it sounds too good to be true, it most often always is. So ensure that if you're buying more than $1,000 threshold purchase, that you're able to at least see it in person first. Do not transfer money beforehand, and ensuring that there are always these places that help you vet those things early on to ensure that you are getting pre-vetting done as well as not carrying a lot of cash for those deals, because we've seen in recent times students have gotten into troubles because of it. Ensure that you're when I know there is a lot of anxiety in US around this, but ensure that you are not responding to a random emergencies call and giving them your documents unless your school does specifically ask that. So go to your ISSS teams, go to your admissions team. You'll always have Homebase and our team to really gut check some of the things that you feel are giving you a little bit of anxiety.
Those are such great tips. And I will say, international students uh, often are targeted for some of these scams, and it's not even within the United States. So it might also come from your home country. So
Yeah.
the organizations like the US government or the internet or the IRS, they're
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
call you to ask for money, nor will the police. So if you ever get those calls, always go check with your international office. If it's real, they'll be able to verify it. But those were both really great examples. So I got a few more questions, but I think we're coming up on time. So I just want to close up with, can you provide a couple of tips of what are some things that you might avoid doing in the first 2 weeks that might be something you want to do to get set up, but maybe is not as necessary? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. I did not prep you for that.
Yes. Well, I think avoid going to super heavy-handed parties in your first couple of days here. You will need some of that energy in exploring some of just the random hiccups that would come your way. Just expect some uncertainty along the way. I think that goes a lot longer way because from your move-in to ensuring you have your furniture is being delivered onto a different address, it happens. Just ensure that you have a good local ecosystem and you're not doing it alone. So reach out early, reach out to more people as you can, and find your friends and classmates and partners in anxiety and growth around you so that you are able to at least ensure that if you're not available to do something, you have a tag team, effort driven team around you. This would go a long way.
Great. Jillian, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, it was a little bit more niche, but one thing that we're seeing is, it's very exciting when you land and you get into a new place, and I completely empathize with wanting to feel like everything is immediately settled. But give yourself grace, give yourself time, and especially as it relates to your commute, a lot of questions we get from students who initially like they've landed, they're ready to go, they're like, I need a car, I want to figure this out. And especially if you live in an area where public transportation is accessible, which should have also been something to keep in mind as you were looking for a place to live itself. But just get used to the area first. Don't feel like you need to immediately have a car just because some other students you see do have it. Everybody has their own situation, but especially in larger cities, everything is very well connected and that's intentional. And so sometimes the trade off of fighting to find a parking space, paying unexpected fees and costs associated with your vehicle may be a good trade-off to consider as you're thinking through how long am I going to be staying here for my program and what financially do I want to invest in this.
Oh, I love that tip because sometimes you make a lot of work for your future self if you
Yeah.
get too many things, like a car, for example. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I hope that everyone found this webinar helpful. We'll all put our information in the chat as well. So if you want to reach out to us, feel free to do that. We are all welcome emails and we welcome connections. So thank you for taking the time to join us, CASA, and thank you to all the new students that are coming in. We're really glad you're here.
Thank you.